Hello and welcome to Saline County Speaks. My name is Alan Robinette and I am the community librarian for the Saline County Library. I'm here with Shamika Christian. She is the coordinator for Bright Futures Benton. It's a program that works to meet the needs of students in the Benton School District. I'm really excited to have you here today, Shamika.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming by. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. One of the things we're going to talk about is basketball.
Of course.
Of course. For those who don't know, Shamika is a former WNBA All-Star, and I want to talk about your journey and basically how that landed you, how we were fortunate enough to have that land you here in Saline County. You have an interesting history about you.
Yes.
And
I mean, it's okay. I'm a little modest and humble, but yeah.
Well, it's a journey that not many have had the opportunity to take.
Right. I will say this. I didn't start basketball though until I was in the seventh grade. And that's late for most people.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
I actually had a coach that told me, you know what, you're raw meat. You'll never make it as a basketball player. And I cried. And I went home and I talked to my mom, and my mom was like, listen, either you go out there, you work hard, and you prove them wrong, or quit. But just know if you quit, you're going to quit everything for the rest of your life. So I took that and I just worked extra hard, and good things happen.
Now, were you tall for your age at that point?
Yes.
You were? Okay.
Yes. I will say my very first school basketball coach, he was the first one to put a basketball in my hand. And he only did that not knowing my skill set because I didn't have one at that time, have any at that time.
Right.
But he just knew that, like, put a basketball in a kid's hand and see what happened. And I fell in love, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Love at first sight.
Yes.
Wow.
But he only did it because I was tall.
Well, and then it's not just Shamika's tall, she's good at basketball, she's going to succeed.
Right.
I mean, you've been dealing with that with some of the teams that you've coached.
Yes.
Somebody can have early talent, but it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people, understand that. And it's just like with anything else. Like, if you want to be good at it, you really have to put in the time and the hours. And I put in a lot of time and a lot of hours. And it was so funny to me because when I would go talk to, like, younger kids and tell them when I was in the WNBA, but I would come back and talk to them there, and they didn't comprehend. They didn't put two and two together. They're just like, you're already in the league. So all they saw was just me in the league. They didn't understand what it took for me to get there.
History began yesterday when Shamika was an all-star for the New York Liberty.
Yes, exactly.
And that didn't, they don't understand just the early hours in the gym.
Exactly.
The figuring out, okay, I've got game, but where does my game fit in? And what can I bring to the table that I can do better than others?
It got to a point to where, like, the youth center that I would go and practice at all the time, they would turn the lights off on me. And they were like, you got to go home. But I just wanted to stay in the gym. And they couldn't get me out the gym. They had to turn the lights off. And I said, listen, if I can make it in the dark, I definitely can make it in the light. So I'm going to keep shooting. The only way they got me out was like, we're calling your mom. I said, wait, no, I'm going to get my stuff, because I had a very strict mom. So
right.
I would run and get my stuff then. But that was some good memories when I first started.
Well, and you have some siblings who are also very talented at basketball.
Correct. Yes.
Did you ever go up against them?
Yes, and still to this day, I cannot beat him. It's my older brother. He's older than me by 2 years and 10 days. But still to this day, if we play, I cannot beat him. Like, I cannot. And he has kids that now went on to play college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
One went to La Tech. The other went to Three Rivers. His son just lost last week in a championship game against Pine Bluff. He goes to Lake Hamilton, so he's a stud as well. My niece is also a stud. Like, we just have a basketball family, but all of us, we would sit there and plot and plan, like, how to beat him. How can we beat LeMoyne? And he was just one that his IQ is too high. He's just so gifted and talented, but we still to this day cannot beat him.
Wow. Well, now, does that put some pressure on the newest gen? Does that last name add some pressure? I mean, when you talk about, talented basketball families in Garland County, especially at Lake Hamilton, that last name comes with some expectations now.
Of course. It's funny because a lot of people, they know you cannot mention basketball in the state of Arkansas without mentioning Christian, because we just have so many kids, my niece, nephews, my kids that are coming up. they're going to have some big shoes to fill. And I hate that because I don't want it to be that way. I really don't want it to be that way. It's to the point where even whenever I was living in New York, I moved back and I told my daughter, she started playing basketball. I said, don't tell them who I am. Whatever you do, don't tell them who I am. And she's like, why not? And I said, because they're going to expect you to do what I did. And I want you just to love the game and you know, just
And if
right.
it happens, it happens.
Yes.
But
yes.
have it happen organically instead of
yes.
oh, your mom is
yes.
right.
She's finally got it though. Now she's like, I don't like the attention. I don't tell people who you are at all. I said, good. So
Well, let's talk about Hot Springs High.
okay.
You were the leading scorer in when you graduated. You were
Yes.
the highest scorer in Hot Springs High.
Yes.
You went on to U of A.
Yes, that's correct.
And you're the second leading scorer when you graduated.
I am.
Is
and
that
when
correct?
I graduated, now I'm the third. Kudos and hats off to Chelsea Dungy. She did pass me, I believe, on the leaderboard. I want to say it was last year. She
Okay.
did. So
Okay.
super excited. She's in a WNBA now. So I love it. I feel like records are meant to be broken. So that's just going to speak volumes of what the University of Arkansas is doing and the talent that they're bringing in and nurturing. So, you know, I hope someone will come in and beat all of our, like, there's still one person though. And I think it's Betty Fiscus. I think she's number one.
She is, yes.
And she did it without a 3-point line. So I am impressed.
Yes.
I am impressed. So like, you know, I hope, you know, that's just growth for the program at the Lady for the Lady Razorbacks. So hopefully they'll produce more athletes that'll come in and move up the score leading board. So
Sure. And you played for, remind me, you the coach that you played for who went to Texas A&M, is that right?
Yes, Coach Gary Blair. He was there for my first 3 years, and in the last year, he was supposed to be there my whole 4 years. So it was kind of like my deal. I was like, listen, if you're not going to be there my 4 years, let me go somewhere else. And he was like, no, I'll be there. But I understood. They did not renew his contract. So he opted out of the last year, which was my senior year, to go to Texas A&M. So yeah.
And it kind of worked out for him.
Of course, he won a championship.
He won a national championship after he left Arkansas and went to Texas A&M. So I think he can be forgiven.
Yeah.
Now, you went on to become a lottery pick.
Yes.
And played in the WNBA.
That was not easy though. I'm going to be completely honest because my senior year is probably our toughest year. We did not make the NCAA tournament. We could have hosted the NIT, but my teammates, I think it was probably one other teammate that actually wanted to continue on to play during March Madness. Everybody else was done. They were exhausted. They were tired. They just wanted to be done. So I said, well, we can't go with 2 people. So I wasn't
2 on 5 is rough.
Yes, exactly. So I wasn't in like any tournaments during, you know, the postseason. So you have WNBA scouts they're like, who is Shamika? And I was like, oh my goodness, I got to do something. So I went to the draft camp and I just made sure I dominated. I made sure I was the best player there. And that's what, you know, rose my stock because they forgot about me.
Oh gosh, that's tough.
So yeah.
That's tough because at that point you are 22?
21.
21.
Don't give me extra year, 21. But so it was tough also because like I was the SEC Player of the Year. How's the SEC Player of the Year not become a lottery pick or it's not even thought about like during that time? And it's just because you have to be in the postseason to
out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
Did those questions come up? You know, you're the leader of this team. How could you?
Yeah. You know what? They were like, well, what happened? And I was like, my team just was tired. Like, I can't force them to play. And I'd rather not go out there and they're like over it, don't give effort or anything like that. So, you know, I just said, hey, we got to figure out a different way to do this. And I just made sure when I went to the draft camp, it was in New York. And I just dominated. I was out of control. I was on a mission and I was like, I need to get a WNBA job. So I just kind of went crazy in camp. They were like, who is this player? And it just so happened New York had the higher pick of all the coaches that were there. And so they drafted me.
And you were drafted by the New York Liberty. And I remember reading the articles about that in the Sentinel Record. We are both Hot Springs Trojans, by the way. Proud Trojans.
Yes.
So I remember reading about that in the Sentinel, being so proud.
Thank you.
Native daughter has made it to, not just made it to the WNBA, but then became an all-star.
Yeah. So all the hard work definitely paid off. Like, even in high school, some of my friends were going out and doing things. I was in the gym shooting and things like that. College, I didn't get to experience much of the like fun things, to activities on college. I didn't get to join a sorority. I always wanted to join a sorority. I didn't get to do that because I was always traveling or I was always playing basketball. I was on the junior Olympic team during college, so that basically had me playing all year round. I guess it kind of prepared me because with the WNBA, you play in the summer and then you go overseas and play, so that's playing all year round as well. So you're talking about a good 15 years of just playing all year round without having a break. But again, that hard work, it paid off. When I made the All-Star team, I was also invited to play on the Olympic team.
Right.
I made it to the final cuts, and then I injured my knee, and then I was just like, okay, I'm done.
Right.
So I was out for a full year, and then I came back and played 3 more years in San Antonio, 1 year in Phoenix. So
okay.
I was kind of done after that. I was like, okay, it's a lot of basketball.
Well, speaking of playing year round, and I believe it was the year that you were in Phoenix that you played with Brittany Griner.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you also played in Russia.
Yes. Yes.
First, tell me a little bit about that, and then the WNBA, or there are some leagues or some folks who are paying players not to go to Russia now.
Yes.
Is that a decision in today's political climate that you would make again?
I would definitely not go back and play. No, not at this moment. Actually, seeing what happened and transpired with BG, and I'm not, dismissing anything that she has done. I just think that as professional players go overseas, one, you have to be privy to the laws over there, first and foremost, which,
sure.
You just got to be careful. There's obviously a language barrier, but whenever you add a war on top of that, like, it's just the risks are higher. And especially if, for example, obviously Russia is not too happy with the U.S. of all the support that we're giving to Ukraine, but you just got to be careful. You don't want to put yourself in a position to where, you could end up like BG. Again, love her to death. Probably one of the best people inside and out that you could ever meet. Life of the party, loves to have fun.
Sure.
So I enjoyed playing with her, but I really hate like how everything transpired, and sometimes I know she's getting judged for it. Hey, she made the wrong choice, whatever the case may be, but I still love her like as a person. Like, she's like, I have a picture of her, and it's on my wall. So like, it's just both of us together, like, because we were really, we had a lot of fun that last year in Phoenix that I was there. So, but yeah, I would not make the same decision and go back and play to Russia. Russia's a very cold and difficult place, obviously the language barrier, but my agent, he warned me ahead of time. He's like, Shamika, I'm going to send you somewhere, and it's not going to be fun. There's not a lot of sun, and I know how you are. I know your personality. He was like, but if you ever feel down, you get sad, look at your bank account. So that's what I did. I just looked at my bank account because Russia's that country, like, you get paid so much money there that it's unrealistic. You cannot go anywhere else in Europe or anywhere to play and make that kind of money. Some players, I don't want to say names, but they were getting paid $250,000 per month. So in 4 months, they made $1 million.
That's life-changing money.
Exactly. So, but you're not going to make that anywhere else. Playing anywhere else overseas. The closest that you can get to it probably be playing in China, which is another difficult place to play in as well. So I never played in China, but I played 2 years in Russia.
Okay, so you finish up your WNBA career.
Yes.
And you're in New York.
Yes.
And you've told me this story that you're thinking, okay, if I remember right, your kids are outside playing. Talk a little bit about that.
So it's funny because like in New York, the kids all play on the sidewalk. There's no backyards. There's nothing. They're just on the stoop all day. But I would send my kids out. I think they left out of at like 8:00 in the morning, and they would not come back in the house until probably like the street light would come on. So it was definitely a different kind of culture, I should say, but that's just what it was. But I realized I didn't want that for my kid. I grew up with a backyard, like that's where I got to play basketball in my backyard sometimes. So I was like, I wanted that, and I wanted more of a slower pace. So I ended up getting pregnant with my now 4-year-old, and my mom was like, Meek, okay, you're just too far away with my grandkids. Can you please come back home? And I was like, okay, I've did this career thing. I've traveled and, I'm ready to settle down and focus on my family. So then I decided to move back to Arkansas. But when I moved back, my mom was no longer in Hot Springs. She was in Benton. So that's how I ended up here in Benton, because my mom was here, my brother was here, and that was going to be my support system, especially with, a new baby coming on. So
Sure.
once I had my now 4-year-old, surprise, my 3-year-old was right behind them. So I was like, now I have 2 babies to take care of. So I was happy that I had, that family support to, get me on my way back to motherhood again, because I have, my 2 older ones as
Older
well.
ones, right. Sure.
So yeah.
And now, how did you get linked up with CJ and Bright Futures?
Oh, goodness. So, oh gosh. So this story is...
First of all, let's talk about CJ, because I introduced that and I didn't say who he was.
Okay, yes. So Dr. CJ Huff is the founder of Bright Futures USA, and he started it about 12 or 13 years ago in Joplin, Missouri, right before they had that big tornado that wiped out the whole town. And so he was a superintendent at one of the schools in Missouri, and he was trying to help solve or remedy the problem of their graduation rate, which was pretty low. And he understood that there was a direct effect of students not having their basic needs met, and yet also not being able to be successful academically and socially in school. So he said, okay, let's implement a program to where, as educators, we see these students that have these issues that has really nothing to do with education, but it affects them, in that sense. So he was like, he wanted to implement a program to where the community basically would take ownership of those students that are right there in the community, because when they grow up, where they're going to be more than likely back in that community. So he wanted to find a way to empower those students to where that they have their basic needs met within 24 to 48 hours, so that they can just focus on their academics. And then the teachers who always, I can guarantee you right now, there's not a teacher that you can go talk to right now that said that they would say, no, I've never paid for anything out of my pocket for my student. Sure. There's plenty of teachers, they see a need for their students and then they go and they take care of that need. So CJ was like, hey, let's just give that ownership back to the community and allow the community to take care of these kids that need it the most. So that's how pretty much Bright Futures started. I mean, if you ask him, he could definitely give you more detail, but the gist of it, he just saw the need that there was, students that lacked, and he allowed the community to become part of taking care of those students.
And how has the Saline County community responded to that here?
Yeah, so, well, honestly, gotta give a lot of props and thank you to Chad Brown, who is on the advisory board for Bright Futures Benton. He actually is the reason why it's here. He was a coach for the Little Football League. I think it was PDFL, I think. And he took home one of his players, and the player mentioned that he didn't have food. And Chad was mind blown, because Saline County is a pretty affluent, community and area. So he's like, how is this happening in our own backyard? And so he made sure that kid had food, but he started to talk. He reached out to his friends that were school counselors, and he was like, hey, what's going on? And she was like, yeah, we see this every day. So it's a matter of what the educators see and then what the community does not see. And then you're trying to marry the two to remedy, fix the problem. Sure. So Chad did some research. He got in touch with CJ, and then I believe they had a meeting with the superintendent at Benton, and he agreed to go ahead and bring Bright Futures in. At that time, I was actually the high school facilitator for Archford, Fusion, which is the alternative school in Benton. And it just so happened the superintendent at that time, he walked through and he was like, hey, what are you doing here? He knew who I was because he actually coached against me whenever I was in high school. He was a basketball coach then. So he coached against me. And he was just asking me so what are you doing? What are your plans? And I was like, well, I thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. I got 2 babies. And then my brother called me and said, come work. And I said, okay. And so now I'm here. And he's like, well, apply for this job. I think you'll be good at it.
And your degree is in
social work.
Social work. So that's obviously a crossroads there, a good fit.
Initially, I had seen him another time. He saw me at a game, and he was like, "Well, is there any job that you would like in our school district? We would love to have you, working with our players." And I said, do you have anything to do with social work? And he said, no. And then like a month and a half later, he came with this job with Bright Futures, which is social work. And he said, go apply for it. I think you'll be good at it. So that's how I got connected with Bright Futures.
Well, and that's where the little Venn diagram of basketball and social work meets, is because both of those take dedication,
Of course.
hard work, teamwork.
Of course.
And those who know about you in a basketball capacity, I think also know about you in a human capacity.
Yes, definitely. Well, there's two things. Well, I shouldn't say two things, but two of the things that I am most passionate about are people and basketball. And so it just happened to work out perfectly. I've always had a servant heart. So I will literally give people the clothes off my back. Even if I don't have it, I'm going to give it to you. It's hard for me to see others suffer. So I try to help out as much as possible.
Glad you mentioned clothes.
Yes.
There's a clothes closet that Bright Futures supports out of the Benton Junior High building.
Yes, that's correct. So we actually have 3 classrooms. 2 of our classrooms, well, the first classroom is full of clothes. And basically the community has been so generous of donating clothes, because we started out like in this little closet at first. So to see that it's grown so much in 1 year is absolutely amazing. But we have such a strong and supportive community that like whenever they, go through and they're doing their spring cleaning, winter cleaning, whatever, they donate all those clothes to Bright Futures. And then I have a group of phenomenal volunteers that like really help make my job a lot lighter, a lot easier. That was their baby. They were like, we want to help out. And so they'll come in, they'll sort the clothes in the first classroom, because our second classroom is actually like a mini pantry. So we have food for students that may be facing food insecurity. We also have hygiene products, toiletries, school supplies. So we store all that in the second classroom. And then our third classroom is kind of like our sorting station. So basically all the donations that come in, we just throw it all in that room. We have students from different high school clubs that will come in and they'll get community service hours to sort, which by the way, we are always looking for people that have time, talent, and treasure. So if you want to help out and support, please let me know. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of needs to be met. So if anybody is willing to come in, please reach out to me, contact me. The best way to contact me will be email. And that email address is schristian@bentonschools.org.
Okay. And are there particular skill sets or particular needs that you have, or is that just determined by the requests that you get from the students?
Yeah. So any need that comes across my desk, I try to meet every last one of them. And we have a thing that we try to make sure that we meet the basic needs within 24 to 48 hours.
And this could be somebody's utility bill, or this could be a pair of shoes.
Yes. Now there are, different regulation or rules, I guess, especially for the utility part, because that's just, if we paid everyone's utility, we would not be able to sustain.
Of course.
So the beauty about Bright Futures, we partner with different organizations that are already providing those resources. It's like we have the students, you guys have the resources. So say if there was a family that needed assistance with utility, we are only able to pay $150 towards that bill unless the community decides to donate more to pay for it, then that's fine. But out of Bright Futures funds, we only say, okay, it's $150, and then we cannot help you again with that for another 12 months. But before any of that is even approved, you have to go through our partner, CADC, first.
Right.
Fill out that form and see if you can get assistance there or whatever they'll cover, and then we'll try to pick up the rest or fundraise to get the rest paid for. So it's not like anyone can just come to us and say, hey, we're about to be shut off, or we are shut off, can you pay this? Well, did you go to CADC first? And that is the beauty. Like, we try to form those partnerships because we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to take over any other organization that is already doing this work in the community.
Right.
I would rather partner with you and say, hey, this is what you do. This is your process. Good. Whenever I get my families that come to me that need that, I'm going to send them to you first. And then, we'll just go from there. So partnerships are extremely important or vital in order for the success of what we do. And again, we have so many different organizations throughout the community that are already doing this work, and we want to make sure that those organizations stay where they are because it only makes a stronger community. So I try to partner with as many organizations as possible. A lot of my job is networking, getting out,
and we're back to teamwork.
Yes,
We're back to teamwork in order
exactly.
to make the community a success.
Exactly, that's true.
You're talking about each individual child, each individual student, and the collective as a whole.
Exactly. And I strongly believe, like, if you empower a kid, a student, like, it's only going to empower and make your community that much stronger, because again, these are the kids that are going to grow up one day and live right there in your community. So
and take care of us.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that your very long and winding road ended up in Saline County, where you're able to really make an impact on the lives of the young people in Saline County.
Thank you. I'm glad. So far it's been amazing. Listen, the love, I don't know, Benton pride is one of a kind. And I'm not saying that about, anything about any other city, but I know since I just, served the students of Benton, they get behind those kids and they make sure that those needs are met. So it makes my job a lot easier and it makes my job enjoyable. So yeah.
It's a special place. It's a special community.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks for coming in today, Shamika.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You bet.